attacks with 100 Ks to go, the pendulum swinging, flats, mechanicals, crashes, and one team dominating the final of this race. This was Paris-Roubaix 2023. I'm pretty crook, so you're going to have to bear with me. I might not be as colourful as usual, but we soldier on. 29 cobbled sectors. We've got Carrefour de l'Arbre, Trouet-D'Arenberg, 256 Ks. The favourite for the race in the Hell of the North was Mathieu van der Poel, who had a pretty strong Alpecin team supporting him with Philipsen. Wout van Aert, the second favourite, with Jumbo-Visma having done well in the Classic so far. And the break just didn't go. For 100 Ks, I sat there waiting to take the dog out for a walk, and the break never went. Only after about 100 Ks, I said, a group of four went, but that was so close to the first cobbled sector that the sort of positioning, jostling, not really lead-outs began for the other favourites' team. So they only got 1 minute 25 into Traville-Hanchy, and that's not going to be enough. It's not the 7-8 minutes. So Ineos took a bit of time at the front. The first crashes happened for Sagan out of the race. Tarling crashed with Luke Rowe. Ganna managed to keep it upright. Jumbo-Visma took their turn to control on the front through these early cobble sectors before Denan, but there was a bit of a lull. You see 113 to the breakaway goes up to 121, and Alpecin were the team present on the front. Well, Van Aert has his first flat of the day, but he was able to come back easily because, as I said, the pressure wasn't on until here into the Haveluy Awalers. Tim van Dijk does a huge lead out for Wout van Aert with 102 Ks to go. He attacks with, that's right, Jon Degenkolb on his wheel, former winner of this race, with Christophe Laporte on his wheel and Van der Poel in the group. Stefan Kung trying to bridge across. Already a selection has been created, and the race is in absolute tatters. I think Lawrence Rex joins them. Pedersen missed that move. Ganna's being paced back by Connor Swift. Ineos were caught out. And how good was it to see John Degenkolb at the pointy end of a big race like this? So it's a group of just 5 entering the Trouet-D'Arenberg. But here the bad news starts for Jumbo-Visma. Dylan van Baarle crashes out of the race. I think he broke his hand. Pedersen bridges across. And here's an important phase of the race. Filippo Ganna with Max Walscheid leading a group with Jasper Philipsen and Yanni Vermeersch to Alpecin, no Jumbo-Visma. So Alpecin are coming back into the race on and after the Trouet-D'Arenberg, sitting in the wheels where they got Van der Poel ahead. They don't need to pull. There's no attacks in this group of Wout van Aert, Van der Poel, Degenkolb, Kung and Laporte. And here the pendulum swings completely in Alpecin's favour. Laporte flats, long change, and he doesn't get onto the back of this Ganna, Walscheid and double Alpecin group, but the Alpecin guys starting to pull and Laporte in no man's land. So now we have Van der Poel ahead with 2 Alpecin teammates. Vermeersch rips that gap open, and Wout van Aert is isolated with other top favourites, Pedersen, Kung, Ganna and Degenkolb in the group, and Quickstep not really able to chase too much behind. So all in control for Alpecin, and to be honest, despite this sort of counter move from Van Hooydonk and Laporte, not too much happened in this second third of the race before Carrefour de l'Arbre. There were a few attacks from MVDP. You would say that Alpecin generally entered the cobble sectors in good position, particularly with Philipsen, but here we go. MVDP throws his first, let's say a jab, on Hanchy, with Degenkolb closing that in the wheel, Kung doing some work for Van Aert, and then Van Aert bridging across. And Van Aert, I guess with the theoretical pressure, but not really, of Laporte and co behind, he didn't pull at all in this second third of the race. But credit to Walscheid for trying to get ahead. I thought this is what Ganna and Kung should have been doing, but Ganna, in fact, closes down Walscheid because you know what's going to happen. MVDP and Van Aert, when we get onto Carrefour de l'Arbre or Camp Favel, or even the velodrome for guys like Kung and Ganna, you don't want to go there with them. Or someone like Jasper Philipsen, who's riding out of his skin, closing down Van Aert's wheel, and then Van der Poel goes on this little rise afterwards. And again, there's a ceasefire. So Vermeersch's drop. Pedersen and Degenkolb kind of take front position in sectors 9, 8, and 7, hoping no one really attacks them from the big favourites, because they'd love to go to the velodrome. Who knows what could happen? But this is the moment in the race before Carrefour de l'Arbre. And listen, they might have been gassed. They might not have had the legs, but I thought, if you're Ganna and Kung, this is where you might want to get ahead, because you know Van der Poel and Van Aert are going to launch that last 5-star sector. Degenkolb tries a little foray, but this is too close to finish. And look at Philipsen. Close it down, enters Cor Vos in first position. And here's the most controversial moment of the race. Degenkolb's on the right in the gutter. Van der Poel's decided right now he's going to shoot that gap, which looks pretty open, to the right of Philipsen, and maybe Degenkolb will take his wheel and that will shut Van Aert off his wheel. But just if you roll the tape a bit forward, at this moment, his teammate Philipsen has decided to go to that, I think, just muddy section on the right-hand side, and he shuts the door on his own teammate, which then ends up with having Degenkolb squeezed into oblivion. He crashes. Van der Poel somehow keeps it up. Van Aert takes the momentum, and he looks like he's riding away at this point on Carrefour de l'Arbre, but that rear wheel's flat with Van der Poel chasing behind. And I don't know if it's flat at this point or through that corner. He looks more beleaguered here, but Van der Poel closes quickly. But we didn't know yet. We thought we're in for a show. We're about to see the showdown between two of the big heavyweights, maybe going to the velodrome, but Van Aert gets on the blower. Van der Poel goes to the front. And this final kind of marred by this puncture. I mean, Van der Poel, deserved winner, of course. Very active in the last third of the race, attacking whilst Van Aert was sitting on. But this puncture from Van Aert denied us fans probably what we might wanted to see. Them going head-to-head in the velodrome, or maybe Van der Poel played the Philipsen card behind. That's what I wanted to see as well, because Philipsen's unbelievable. He's closing down Van Aert's counterattacks on Willem-Zahem. There was a scary moment for Van der Poel in Willem-Zahem himself. Lucky there's no spectators with outstretched clapping hands there this year, but he holds it up. Didn't crash once in the race. 25-second gap, never being brought back, and Van Aert attacks Pedersen, I think, to secure the podium, because he rides pretty willingly with Philipsen in his wheel afterwards, with Philipsen being no mean slouch in the sprint. But a huge win for Van der Poel and Alpecin. Elegant, I guess they were, for this race, with Philipsen celebrating behind with the 1-2. He's won Milano, San Remo, and Roubaix, and he was second in Tour of Flanders. Ecstasy for Van der Poel, dismay for Degenkolb and others. Here's what Van der Poel had to say after the race.
It's hard to describe, but I think I do my best classic season ever, and this was my last race, and to finish it off like this, it's a dream.
Yesterday you told us that you hated Paris-Roubaix sometimes. What do you think about Paris-Roubaix today?
For sure, I love it today, but yeah, it's such a hard race again. I think it's maybe the fastest edition again, I don't know, but it was from start to finish racing again, and it's crazy how fast it went. But like I said, I felt super strong, and I'm really glad to finish off the teamwork of today.
But that's his first cobblestone. How many more are there to come for Mathieu van der Poel? Wins ahead of Philipsen, his teammate Van Aert third, then Pedersen, Kung, Gannet, Degenkolb, Valscheid, Rex, and Laporte rounding out the top 10. I hope you enjoyed the video. A little bit of a gap in the programming, I think, until some of the Ardennes races. Make sure you subscribe down below to see those videos when they're up later. Ciao.